How's it going, guys? It's Al once again coming back at you with my first top 10 rankings for 2018 fantasy football. We're going to look at my quarterbacks today, who I've got in the top 10. If you like this video, please click that like button below. As you're watching on YouTube, give the channel a subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. As we move through these, I'll be coming out with running back, wide receiver, and tight end videos as well to talk about my top 10, way too early, top 10 at each position for fantasy football. So let's get right to it. Let's go to my number one quarterback on the year for your early drafts. We're going to start with Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers, coming off of an injury, had 16 touchdowns last year in only 6 games, not including the 7th where he got injured early. That touchdown rate for him is completely sustainable, in my opinion. This is something that he can do. 4,000 yard plus, 35 plus touchdowns is definitely in play, and he has a super high ceiling, as high a ceiling as pretty much any quarterback in the league in 2018 because of that touchdown possibility. You don't need attempts at quarterback. Attempts help, especially if you're efficient, but efficiency is the #1 dictator of fantasy points when it comes to quarterbacks. And Aaron Rodgers as good as any in terms of both volume and efficiency. So he is, once again, my #1 quarterback on the year. Moving on to number 2, Father Time is undefeated, but has yet to claim his W against Tom Brady. I don't know when that's going to come at all. Another year of 4,500 plus yards and 32 TDs, also not to be unexpected once again this year. He lost Brandon Cooks this offseason, but they gained Jordan Matthews. Not that Jordan Matthews is in the same boat in terms of talent as Brandon Cooks, but it's just not going to be that big of a step back with all the weapons that they have around Tom in this New England offense. Considering that Gronk is back, you still have Chris Hogan, who is definitely a thing. Rex Burkhead should take a back seat to Sony Michel, who they drafted in the first round of the draft, and you still got Julian Edelman. He's a guy who loves to spread the ball around. James White coming out of the backfield. Too many weapons to ignore Tom Brady in this New England offense that should continue humming for one more season. Now, my number 3, there was a bit of trepidation here for me. I was going back and forth between my 3 and my 4, and I'm sure some people are going to disagree with this one, but at number 3 for me, I have Cam Newton. Coming off of another not great year. 2 years ago didn't have a great year. Last year had a great year. 2015 was his MVP year, where we saw the best year that he had, kind of like Matt Ryan had in 2016, where we knew he was going to come back, but didn't know he was going to come back this far or regress this far. Now, the rumors of Cam not running anymore, pretty much out the window, right? Considering that he ran the ball more times last year than any time he had in his career, and had more rushing yards than any season prior in his illustrious career as well. 754 yards on the ground. Now, his touchdowns were down, only had 6 last year on the ground, threw for just over 20. Carolina's added a couple of offensive weapons the last few drafts, with Curtis Samuel, with Christian McCaffrey, and now DJ Moore in the first round of this draft. Gives him some really great young playmakers in this offense to help take the weight off of him, maybe take the roof off the defense, to allow his underneath targets, his bigger targets like Greg Olsen and Devin Funchess, to be able to really get the job done around the goal line and inside the 20s as well. I like Cam Newton this year. I think the additions that they've made in the draft the last couple of seasons push him over my number 4 guy, Russ Wilson, who scored more points than any fantasy quarterback in 2017. But I think, for all the reasons that I think Cam Newton takes a small step forward in 2018, I think Russ Wilson takes a small step back. He was 6th in the league in terms of attempts last year, #1 in the league in terms of touchdowns, but they used their 27th pick in the first round on a running back, Rashad Penny, who I like a lot. And I've seen some people that are way smarter than me say that they think that this kid is going to be a real difference maker, and I don't disagree. So that's going to take away a little bit of the need for the Seahawks to lean on Russ, where they had to last year because there was no viable running back in that backfield. Now they have somebody who can get over 1,000 yards from scrimmage on the year, who's going to be capable around the goal line because of his size and his skill set. Russ Wilson's still going to have a tremendous year, in my opinion. He is still my number 4 quarterback on the season, but I have him just behind Cam Newton, where I think a lot of people are going to have him maybe a little bit higher at 3 or at 2. Moving on to number 5, the most electric quarterback in the league in 2017, Deshaun Watson. You heard it from me all last year on videos, on podcasts, on Twitch, and on YouTube, how unsustainable the production that Deshaun Watson had, and I'm sticking to that story in 2018. He played, what, 5 games last year? He had tremendous results in those 5 games, about 1 or 2 50-yard touchdowns plus in each game. That is completely unsustainable. He got injured and his season ended before defensive coordinators had enough tape to be able to adjust and make him adjust, because life is all about how you deal with plan B, and they never had to get to plan B in Houston in 2017. As long as Deshaun Watson was at the helm, they just plan A worked every time. Well, guess what, guys? Plan A is not going to work every time. His legs are going to make him extremely viable as a fantasy quarterback. My issue with him in terms of drafting him in 2018
2 + 2 is 4 - 1, that's 3. Quick maths.
JD Hawk, thank you very much for the tier 1 sub 6 months in a row, unlocking the VIP badge, the gold VIP badge in the chat. Thank you very much. We are going to see him regress just a little bit. He's not going to throw for 3 and 4 touchdowns every game. He's not going to throw for 300 and 400 yards every game over 16 games. He may break the NFL. He may break math, and that's just fine. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm willing to be wrong on this one. I think that Deshaun Watson is going to be great. He is fun to watch. My problem and why I'm not going to have a lot of him in 2018, there are people who are going to have him as the 1, 2, or 3 quarterback on their list. They're going to vastly overpay for him in their drafts. And I'm somebody who likes to wait on quarterbacks. I always have been. I will take them later. I will pick guys that are between 9 and 15 on my list every year. The guys in that range last year, Marcus Mariota, Carson Wentz, players of that ilk. And I'll take 2 or 3 of those guys and be totally fine with it. I'm probably just not going to have very many shares of Deshaun Watson because I'm not going to be able to go get him for the price that he's going to cost in drafts. If you like to pay up for quarterbacks, I don't think anybody outside of Aaron Rodgers has as high a ceiling as Deshaun Watson. But we'll see if the regression monster rears its ugly head in terms of his efficiency in 2018. Carson Wentz, coming off of a tremendous year in 2017, played 13 games, had multiple touchdown performances in 10 of them. An amazing offense, got great weapons. Ertz and Alshon Jeffrey, Nelson Aguilar had a great bounce-back season last year. Glad to see that, as he had the drop season in 2015. Really figured it out, or sorry, in 2016. Really figured it out in 2017. I can't see Wentz not throwing for 4,000 yards if he stays healthy this year. We'll see if the touchdown efficiency stays as great as it was last year, because that would mean 4,000 plus yards and 35 touchdowns, which would elevate him far above number 6 on the list if that was to come into play. I think 30 touchdowns is probably more realistic as he regresses a little bit in terms of his touchdown efficiency. But it's a great offense. He's a great young talent. And not to say he's a system quarterback. Even though Nick Foles came in and did tremendous in the playoffs and the end of the regular season after he got injured. But who cares? Who cares if it's a great system and he's a great athlete at quarterback who can really get the most out of it? So I'm not going to argue whether he's a system quarterback or not, because that's not important to me. I just care about the numbers, and Carson Wentz should continue to pile them up this year. Moving on to number 7, Kirk Cousins. You see him in a Washington uniform here. I don't have any action shots of him in a Minnesota uniform, but that's where he's going to be in 2018. Moves on, gets a huge contract. Congratulations to him for that, and steps into possibly the perfect offense for him in terms of the weapons that he has. Kirk Cousins, one of the best best quarterbacks at throwing to the slot receiver, and he gets Adam Thielen, one of the best slot receivers in the league in 2017. One of the highest percentages in terms of completed deep balls in the league. He does very well on throws over 20 yards. Stephon Diggs, playing on the outside, presents him that possibility as well. Thielen can get deep in his own right. We've seen the results that Jordan Reed and Vernon Davis have had playing with Kirk Cousins. Well, guess what? Now he's got Rudolph playing at tight end here in Minnesota. They have a tremendous running game with Dalvin Cook coming off of a great rookie season where he got injured just in the first couple months of the season. Should be back and running really well this year as well. This is a great offense and a great situation for Kirk Cousins, and we're going to see him keep it rolling, albeit at a higher pay grade than he was at before. Going to number 8, coming off of 2 injury-riddled seasons,
2 + 2 is 4
Andrew Luck.
- 1,
Jägermeister,
that's
thank you very
3.
much for the 6 months in a row. Andrew Luck coming off of 2 injury-riddled seasons in a row. Biggest asterisk on the board here because of the injury possibilities. If he's healthy, you have to have him in your top 10 because he's just too good, right? I mean, 4,200 yards and 30-plus touchdowns, 100% in play with the weapons around him in this offense. If he can stay healthy, he's already achieved those lofty statistical milestones twice in his career, and I don't see why he can't this year if he's 100% healthy. But realize that he has had major injury problems. If he's back, He is somebody that you're going to want to go after and might be cheaper than somebody like Deshaun Watson, where Deshaun Watson's going to go above probably that number 5 spot in terms of QBs in your draft, the QB 5. Andrew Luck could go as your QB 11, QB 12, depending on your league. So somebody to monitor as the season goes on. And people forget how good he is at running the ball around the goal line. So adds that rushing upside on a game-by-game basis. Moving on to number 9. Now, here's where I'm probably going to take some heat. I've got Patrick Mahomes. Not a rookie, but playing his first season as a starter for the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm happy to be out on this limb on Patrick Mahomes. I'm totally fine. I'm out on the limb, and I am loving every minute of it because you got Alex Smith last year, who has less arm talent than Patrick Mahomes. Came in as the number 4 QB scorer in 2017. The number 4. He was the QB 4 on the entire season. Alex freaking Smith. So now you've got somebody with more arm talent, the same amount of rushing ability. He's not a running quarterback, but he is mobile and is athletic and can get it done on the ground as well if he has to. But you slide him into maybe the most perfect offensive complementary weapons that exist in the league today, which allowed Alex Smith to be as good as he was. Travis Kelce, one of the best tight ends, if not the most talented tight end in the league right now. All apologies to Gronk. I love Kelce's skill set. Gronk, obviously an animal, best tight end of all time, but right now, considering health and injury history, I think Kelce is right there with him and in that argument for the tight end 1 on the season. And they all complement one another. You've got Kareem Hunt, who can catch the ball out of the backfield, easing the load on a first-year quarterback like Mahomes. Travis Kelce underneath. Tyreek Hill taking the ceiling off of the defense, allowing a quarterback like Mahomes to have that space underneath where he's not going to have to throw through really tight windows and use play action off of the rushing attempts from Kareem Hunt to get deep to Tyreek Hill. And now on the other side, instead of having a guy like Conley or Albert Wilson, they've added Sammy Watkins, so that a ridiculous group of skill position players for a first-year guy like Mahomes to go after. Now you've got a year of him being in this system, understanding the terminology, knowing the playbook, and now an entire offseason with all of this talent to work with. I think they're going to hit the ground running, and I think that Patrick Mahomes is going to come in as a great value this year, somebody I'm probably going to have a ton of exposure to in best ball leagues as the season gets going. And coming in at number 10, somebody who was on the wrong side of variance a little bit at the end of the year once he took the helm, Jimmy Garoppolo, 16.56 fantasy points per game over his 5 starts for the San Francisco 49ers in 2017. They were horrible at red zone conversion rate once Garoppolo took over at quarterback. How many field goals did they have at the end of the year, right? Like, that was really the biggest story, was that their kicker was getting 3, 4, 5 field goals in every game. That should normalize just a little bit in 2018, meaning for me, 3,800 plus yards and 25 touchdowns are very realistic for somebody like Garoppolo, and as your 10th quarterback, I think that he rounds out this top 10 very nicely. So thank you guys for tuning in. If you have any differences, if you have anything that you wanted to say, please leave it in the comments section down below right here on YouTube. Give this video a like, and please smash that subscribe button. We'll catch up to you next time with my top 10 running backs for 2018. Until then, bye everybody.